Welcome to this video. In this training, you are going to learn the 5 essential strategies for creating sellable quality paintings. Yes, if your intention is to sell your paintings, in that case, you will really find this video very helpful. I promise you that by learning these 5 essential strategies and by incorporating them in your watercolor paintings, you will be able to make them look highly impressive and you will find it easier, much easier to sell in the near future. Okay, I'm creating this because there are lots and lots of art professionals as well as aspiring art professionals, and they have a desire to sell their paintings in the future. And they find it really difficult to sell them because they forget to incorporate these 5 essential strategies. Are there more essential strategies other than the 5? Yes, there are. But to keep this video really short, sweet, and simple, I'm just sharing 5 essential strategies. If you incorporate at least these 5 essential strategies, you will create an amazing painting. I promise you that. Okay, so let's start with the first strategy. Select the right subject for your painting. I cannot emphasize this enough that the subject you choose for your painting can significantly influence its success or failure in the art market. If you are planning to sell your painting, then you must select the subject very carefully. So there are 3 main criteria that I would like you to incorporate when you are selecting a subject. The first criteria is select a subject that your target market wants to buy. For example, let's say your target market is hotel industry, and the hotels that you're looking for are mostly in the hilly regions or near the sea. Okay, so you may select a subject which is related to mountains and beaches or something like that, right? Now, let's say your target market is food industry. Then you need to create paintings that are more suitable for food related services or food related companies. Now, let's say your target market is people who love cats, dogs, horses. Then maybe you should select subjects which are wildlife or specifically cats, dogs, horses. And I'm not saying that you must only focus on selecting a target subject that is suitable for target market. I'm saying that select a subject which is your target market loves to buy, as well as that is having something special, something unique, right? Also, that you really care about painting, right? So there is always a sweet spot, something that your target market loves to buy and something that you would like to create, which is unique and special for you. Okay, I will give you an example. So I love to create paintings which are having some special significance in my life. So in my childhood days, I used to collect antique coins. So later on, when I became a professional watercolor artist, I was thinking one day that how it will be if I paint some antique coins. So I clicked a photograph of antique coins and I painted them. And a wealthy doctor who is quite an expert, he purchased it for his home, right? So, I was not looking for serving only doctors, but it happened to meet the criteria, right? Like affluent people, they try to keep paintings, original paintings in their houses, and they like to have some wealth related symbols, right? So this is wealth related, and he liked it and he immediately purchased it. Another one which I created is Peekaboo, that is a painting of a raccoon inside a tree hollow. And it is quite a sweet, cute subject. When I participated in an exhibition in Canada, one person found it really interesting. Maybe he had some connections with raccoons, or maybe he is fond of raccoons and he immediately bought it, right? This is another subject which is very close to my heart. I painted it because this is an eye-catching subject. Also, I absolutely love Indian spices, right? It always makes me think about spices, Indian spices. So I painted it. At this point, when I'm creating this video, it is not yet sold, but I will sell it to somebody who really loves Indian spices. Okay. So you can understand that if you create a painting which your target market loves to buy, as well as you love to create, which holds some kind of significance, some kind of value in your life, then you will really love to paint that. Okay. One of the strategies, that can help you to know if you should paint a subject or not. It is not like you click a photograph and you should paint it. There are a lot of photographs which doesn't meet criteria. So this is one tip which can help you understand whether you should paint a subject or not. So let's say you have clicked a subject, and let's say you feel that the subject is really eye-catching. Okay, so what you do is you can upload that image in Canva and put it against a wall, and maybe you can add a frame, and then it will show you how your painting will look like if you create a realistic watercolor painting. Now, in case you do not want to create a realistic watercolor painting, then there are apps, okay, which can help you to create something similar just to show how it will look like, and put it against the wall, and then you see if it is looking good or not. Provided you really do a good job with this painting, it will certainly look good. Okay, I will give you another example. So I clicked this photograph in Kolkata, like eye-catching because it is red and green combination. It is having lights and darks. It is having a lot of patterns, and it is a central composition. I really love this subject. Now, in order to confirm whether it will look good or not, or how big painting I should make in order to make it really stand out, I can again use the same concept. I can upload the image in Canva, and I can put it against the wall and add a frame to it to see if my painting will really look good against the wall and how big the painting should be to make it really impressive. Okay, I will give you another example. So this is a floral subject, and if I have a white background, I would like to see how big my botanical floral subject should be so that it looks really, really good. So again, I use the same concept, and I feel that, yes, if I do a really good job with painting this, my painting will really look good on the walls. Okay, so I hope you like the tip. Now let's move to strategy number 2. The second strategy is thorough planning. Failing to plan is equal to planning to fail. I learned this long time back when I was in school, but I realized its importance while creating painting. See, if you are inviting few people for a get together or for a party, or if you're going for a movie or you're going for a small mini vacation, you will always plan, isn't it? Right? How can you create a painting which you're planning to sell and you are not even focusing on planning? Right? If you want to create a painting for selling purpose, planning plays a huge important role. Okay, thorough planning is a must before you start your watercolor painting to avoid major mistakes. Okay, I will tell you some of the mistakes which I have made because I had no idea how to do planning. So this is my second watercolor painting, which I did in March 2015. At that time, I was just trying out watercolors. This is my second painting, you can see. And I had no idea how to do backgrounds in wet on wet style or how to select colors for the background. So when I was doing this painting, I painted the foreground first because I had absolutely no idea how to do the background. But after I completed the foreground, when I was thinking, what should I do with the background? And I was completely blank. I messed it up. I did a lot of trial and error. And luckily, the background is not looking that bad, isn't it? But I would have preferred a much better background for this painting. Now, this is not my first or second painting. This is my maybe 11th, 12th, or 13th painting in watercolors. And at that time, I was really feeling confident. In fact, I was feeling overconfident. And at that time, I was writing a book. You know what? I made a huge blunder by not doing the planning. I just felt that I will get a lot of fishes from different photographs, and I will just create some water all from my head. But when I actually tried creating, like painting the water, it was not looking good at all. It was looking absolutely awful. It was looking like black color Maggie noodles. Okay. And I somehow managed to save this painting, but I had a very tough time doing that. So I realized that I must do thorough planning each time, every time, while creating a watercolor painting, right? So these are some important planning activities that you can do. This is just a comprehensive list. This is not the whole and soul list, you can say. Okay, so these are some of the important planning activities. So number 1 is detailed planning. You need to understand what are the essential things you must do to avoid mistakes and to ensure that you are creating a masterpiece right from the very beginning. So your expectation should be to create a masterpiece. Now, if your expectation is to create a sellable quality masterpiece, in that case, what are the things you need to do in order to avoid making mistakes? That is number 1, which comes under planning. Second is you design the palette. Okay, all professional artists, they first select the right colors for their painting. So once you select the right colors for your painting, you will find it really helpful, because when you are creating the painting at that time, you will not look for this color and that color. You will have all the colors well written and well documented. Okay. The third one is painting process outline. So you create a plan of exactly how you are going to carry out the entire painting. What kind of techniques are you going to use? Because if you are using some techniques which really need your paper to be thick, or if you are using some technique where you would like the texture to be too visible, then those kind of planning will help you understand what kind of paper you are going to use. Okay. For example, let's say in my painting, I want to use a lot of color removal operations. Then I will prefer a 300-pound paper over a 140-pound paper. Why? Because 300-pound paper is more rigid and it can tolerate a lot of color removing operations, right? The next important planning activity is image modifications. If you want to enhance the colors, brightness, saturation, if you want to add some elements or remove some elements from your reference photograph, in that case, you can do all of that in the planning section, okay? Before you start working on your painting, during the planning section, you have to do this image modifications, okay? Another activity is background changes. Let's say you are creating a floral subject or a landscape subject and you have a reference photograph, but you're not liking the background, or you want to change the sky color. All those things you can do it during the planning stage, right? Next is composition optimization. You can crop and adjust the composition. You can use some good composition guidelines like rule of thirds or central composition, or some kind of leading lines, or any kind of composition guidelines you can use. And you have to find out what composition guidelines you are going to implement for your painting, and that activity you have to do it during the planning stage, right? Next is creativity and consideration. You have to ensure that the final artwork is visually striking and remarkable. So how can you make sure that the final artwork is visually striking and remarkable? What are the things that you would like to do in your painting so that your painting looks really striking? For example, while teaching one of my students, she's an advanced watercolor artist and she wanted some visual surprises, and I suggested her that she can add some fun elements like some cats, because she loves cats. And I asked her to add some known figures in the painting. So she added Rabindranath Tagore, and she added Mona Lisa, and some few other people who are quite well known. So, these kind of things you can do while in the planning stage. You cannot come up with these kind of idea abruptly while you have already created quite a lot of the painting, right? Okay. Another one is paper selection. Selecting the paper is a very important task. So choose appropriate paper surface for your painting. Let's say I am creating an architecture-based subject and I really want the textures to be quite visible. Then I would prefer a rough watercolor paper. Okay. For example, Archie's rough paper. If I am painting a botanical subject, maybe I will not select rough. Maybe I will select a hot pressed or cold pressed paper, right? So based upon what kind of painting I'm creating, I will select the paper. Next is painting size. Determining the ideal size of your painting is a very important task that you need to do during the planning activities. I will give you some examples of some blunders which I did while creating a painting, because I failed to write down the points which I wanted to implement. Okay, so this is one of the examples. I totally messed this painting. So the left-hand side shows reference image and right-hand side shows my finished painting. Although it looks good, but it went through a lot of bad phases. Okay, why? Because at that time I had no idea about Canva or Photoshop. And although I wanted the painting to look quite different than the reference photograph, because I didn't like the background, but I had no idea what kind of background will look good in this painting. So I had to imagine. Then, because I am not very good in imagination, okay, I ended up doing a lot of trial and error to the background, because of which I ended up creating a mess. And then I had to hide that mess in the dark background, right? Now, if I would have understood the importance of planning, then I would have invested some time in learning how to do photo editing and all that. I would have edited my photograph. Like in this case, this is the reference original photograph on the left and the reference photograph on the right. So here I learned and then I edited and added a very beautiful blurry background to the photograph, right? I could have done that here, and that would have saved me from a lot of trial and error, right? And this kind of editing you can do during the planning process. Also, let's say your photograph is looking quite ordinary. For example, in the left-hand side photograph is not looking good at all, right? It is quite tilted and it is not having a lot of charm. And it is not having few things which can make a photo painting really impressive. So what I did, I just added some pigeons, I enhanced the colors, I made the saturation more, I made the darker values more darker, I just rotated the image so that the tilting problem is solved. And then the reference photograph is looking really, really amazing. Now, if I create a painting out of this, or if my students create a painting out of this, it will really look good, isn't it? This painting was quite big initially, and after I completed creating the painting, I got a lot of review comments that it is not looking balanced. And I had to completely delete, I had to crop this painting, means physically I have to cut this painting 12 inches on the right side. Okay, it was a very sad moment for me, but in order to implement the central composition, I had to do that. Otherwise, the painting was looking quite imbalanced, right? And this problem happened only because I forgot to implement the composition guidelines during the planning section. Now, I have taught watercolors to lots and lots of people, like above 6,000 people, and you can see that you can actually create quite complex paintings if you do thorough planning. This is a painting by my student Ashwini Rudrakshi. This is a painting by my student Madhubanti Mukherjee. And you can see that these paintings are quite complex. And with thorough planning, with proper, well-decided steps, you can create absolutely stunning paintings, right? So now I will share the strategy 3. Strategy 3 is follow principles of art. So there are total 10 principles of art. And if you follow principles of art in your painting, then your painting will look really amazing. So use principles of art to make your painting look impactful and meaningful. Make sure that your painting follows at least 4 principles of visual art. You don't have to implement all 10 principles of visual art. Now, if you incorporate 4 principles of visual art in your painting, at least, in that case, your painting will stand out. And if you incorporate 6 or more principles of visual art, the people will stop scrolling and will praise your painting, will add a comment to your painting, and your painting will really, really become impressive, right? As a rule of thumb, I never create a painting with less than 6 principles of visual art. For example, this is my painting Peterworks Cathedral. And in this painting, I have incorporated the following principles of visual art. First is balance. So this painting is symmetrically balanced. Then unity. The harmonious colors and patterns are adding unity to this painting. It is having harmony. You can see all the colors are harmonious. And the patterns are there. Lots and lots and lots of patterns are there. And then proportion, all the pillars, the windows, and everything is having proportion. It is also, I forgot to mention that it is also having scale principle of visual art. And yeah, of course, I have written here, the scale principles of visual art is also there. And the final one is emphasis. The direction lines, the leading lines are helping the viewer's eyes to move towards the red and green color section at the very top. Okay, if you can see, there is a red and green color section, which is at the very end of the ceiling. And you will be able to, you know, if you see this painting, your eyes will naturally move towards that direction because all the leading lines and direction lines are pointing towards that section. Now, this painting, the catch is having total 7 principles of visual art: emphasis, balance, harmony, pattern, unity, proportion, and movement, right? Now, what I do is I highly recommend my students to paint based upon reference images, which is having minimum 6 principles of visual art. So in this particular subject, there are 8 principles of visual art: pattern, rhythm, scale, proportion, radial balance, unity, harmony, and emphasis, right? This one is having 7 principles of visual art: movement, variety, pattern, unity, harmony, proportion, and balance. This one is again having 7, okay? And this is having movement, rhythm, harmony, pattern, unity, asymmetrical balance, and proportion. This one is having pattern, movement, proportion, symmetrical balance, unity, harmony, and emphasis, right? So when my students paint based upon reference images, which is having minimum 6 principles of visual art, their paintings really stand out. So this is my student's result. Divya Bharti is holding her watercolor project painting after she completed it. And although the photograph is looking a little pale because of the lighting, her photograph was quite similar to this one, right? So strategy 4, follow strong composition guidelines, right? Having a strong composition in your painting is like having a solid foundation for a house. It's what holds everything together and makes it stand out. I often compare composition guidelines with the cherry on top. So let's say you are creating a wonderful painting. So your painting is made up of all the elements of art, that is line, shape, color, form, value, texture, and space. The principles of art are like your recipe. Okay, you need a wonderful recipe to create amazing dish. Exactly like that. Principles of art are like recipe for your painting, and composition guidelines are like decoration on top of your cake, right? Okay, so that is how you can compare. By incorporating strong composition in your painting, you can transform an ordinary subject into something memorable and eye-catching. I will give you some tips here. So you can add elements, you can remove elements in order to create a wonderful, stunning composition. I had taken these 2 photographs during my trip to a nearby village in Raipur, and I clicked this photograph of this house because it looked really impressive to me. Okay, a lot of bricks. I like brick walls. And this lady, I was actually clicking photographs of a lot of hens and chickens in her house, and I just clicked randomly this lady's photograph. And the lady's photograph is not that impressive. The composition is not that impressive, but I just clicked her. Okay. Later on, I added it in this photograph. Can you see how it is looking much better than this simple house? You can notice that I changed the sky colors. I added even a shadow behind this lady so that it really looks as if she's standing. Otherwise, if I don't add shadow, then it will seem as if she's flying, right? Or I have added a sticker. So now I have made this composition much better, right? Look at this photograph. This is looking really ordinary, isn't it? These are some apple blossoms. And in order to make it much better, I added this butterfly using the rule of thirds. Okay, so rule of thirds is a very commonly used composition guidelines where you divide the entire painting subject into 3 equal horizontal parts and 3 equal vertical parts. Okay, how you do that? By placing 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines, which are equidistant, right? Now their intersection points will be those points. If you put your subject on the intersection lines, then that will be considered as following the rule of thirds. Okay, so here in this training, I'm not teaching you composition, but I'm just telling you that I use the rule of thirds composition guideline in order to position a butterfly to the subject. So I used this particular photograph. First, I cropped it, increased its brightness and contrast, and then I added a butterfly. And it is looking quite stunning, isn't it? Right? Okay, same I did this when I clicked the photograph of the flowers. That time the birds were not there. Later on, I added birds using Canva, right? You can do all these things. You can click some wonderful flower subjects, and then you can add birds, you can add butterfly, and it will look really stunning. And then my student painted it. 2 of my students painted the same subject. This is Jayaprada Ayyappan with her project painting based upon this reference photograph. Okay, so let's understand strategy number 5. Know when to stop. This is such an important thing that most artists miss out. So about 70 to 75% of aspiring watercolor artists, they stop way before they should stop. And because of that, their paintings look unfinished and amateurish. And about 20 to 25% of aspiring artists, they keep on painting even after they should stop. And because of that, their painting looks overworked. And whether your painting is looking underworked or overworked, it will not be considered as a sellable painting, right? So knowing when to stop is crucial in watercolor painting. It helps you avoid overworking or underworking. And I guide my students to learn these skills. And this comes with practice. It comes with a serious comparison. It comes with intention. When you paint with intention, when you paint with, like, you continuously compare whether, and you find out whether it is really looking finished. At that time, you notice that, yes, this is the right time. Okay, when you should stop. So that is a feeling which comes. It comes with a little bit of practice, with little bit of training, with little bit of close observation, with little bit of hand holding initially. Once you develop that skill of identifying exactly when to stop, it really helps your painting look quite finished, not overworked or not underworked. So this is my student with her very first watercolor painting. Can you see, like, can you believe that this is her very first watercolor painting? She had never painted watercolors before, and she did an amazing job, right? So this is her first painting, and she kept asking me, ma'am, what else I need to do? And I just said that, enhance the darkest dark areas and make the boundaries quite prominent if required. And some areas, the boundaries need to go, like lost and found boundaries. So all these small, small suggestions helped her to notice that, yes, this is how she can find out whether her painting is almost complete or not. Now, afterwards, after she have learned the skill, now she will not necessarily have to seek my guidance, right? She can do her own finding. But initially, when you are learning for the first time or creating your first few paintings, initially, maybe you will need to learn this skill. Same goes for Dr. Avanti Vithale. She was planning to stop way before actually it needed to be stopped, right? So I kept on telling her that, you are going in the right direction. Just keep moving. Just continue doing what you're doing. And she was comparing with the reference photograph, and she continued with the painting. And then a stage came where she was really happy with the painting. And then she called it done, right? So this is another example. This is Dr. Anusha Mohan. And this is her very first watercolor painting. Yes, it is totally unbelievable that this is her very first watercolor painting. When I say very first, I mean to say that it is not her very first realistic watercolor painting. This is her very first watercolor painting. She never painted with watercolors before. Okay, isn't it stunning? She created such a big, huge size painting. Now I'm telling that this painting is not only beautiful because she came to realize when she should stop, but she incorporated all the 5 essential strategies that I discussed in this particular training. Okay, so there is a focal point. So she incorporated the composition guidelines. Then this subject is following 7 principles of visual art. Okay, she selected the subject very carefully, and all the things which I taught you in this video, she incorporated all of that, and you can see that her painting is looking absolutely stunning. Very impressive, isn't it? So I'm very sure that if you incorporate all of that, your painting will also look amazing. Okay, so this is a summary. The 5 essential strategies we discussed in this video are: select the right subject for your painting, do a thorough planning before you start creating the painting, follow principles of art, at least 4. And if you want to make it stunning, then implement 6 principles of visual art at least. Then follow strong composition guidelines and know when to stop, right? These are all learnable things, right? So just imagine how your paintings will look like if you follow the above 5 essential strategies while creating your next watercolor painting. Now, you know what? I understand that maybe you would like to have a written document that can explain you exactly what I said in this video. So that's why I have created this sellable painting formula. In this PDF guide, I have written exactly what I have shared in this training, maybe something more. So why don't you just click the link and check out? Under this video, I will make sure that I will add this link of the sellable painting formula PDF guide so that you can download it. It is free of cost and you can follow it. It will be always with you so that you can refer to it whenever you want. All I want is just follow the 5 essential strategies. Don't be that person who just keep watching videos after videos without any implementation. I hope you are not one of them. I hope that you will seriously implement these 5 essential strategies for creating sellable quality painting.